So this question comes from Glen R. As a consultant, I would get this for my regular and usually on-time paying customers. It's an emergency. Do what you need to do. Just get it up now, please. So then I would drop my schedule and spend 8 to 10 hours putting something back together and rebuilding and repairing the QuickBooks file, Exchange database, whatever, just to have the client dispute the bill at the end of the month. How do you handle those situations? Can you advise your viewers that emergencies now and superhero efforts sometimes go unpaid? So this can be a real big problem, especially when you're going out there as a consultant, is, people, everything crashes, they need everything, your clients need the systems up and running, and they need you out there right now. You go out there, you do the work, and then after the work is done, they end up not wanting to pay you. I mean, this sadly is one of those rather normal occurrences in the real world of IT. And unfortunately for a lot of new consultants that go out there, what they think is that I'm going to take this to court. And yeah, that doesn't go so well. So the first thing you can do if you're worried about getting paid is you can have some kind of paperwork that the client signs before you start working to state everything out. That basically, when you go in there to do a service call, you have the service call information, what the problem is, you have what your hourly rate is, and they agree to pay you once the work is completed. One of the things you want to do with things like paperwork and contracts is frankly, they're about worthless from a legal standpoint. To be honest with you, actually taking people to court is just a tedious, horrible, nasty, expensive process that just doesn't generally work out well. You go in there to recover your $1,000, it ends up costing you $3,000 to recover your $1,000, plus there's a whole bunch of bad will, and it took time and energy and effort, and all that kind of stuff. What paperwork is actually good for, though, is it's a psychological tool. When somebody has signed their name to the dotted line, then they feel as if they have actually agreed to whatever it is they have agreed to. So they by physically signing, putting their name, they feel physically more as if they've agreed to something, and so they're more likely to pay for it. The other thing, too, is if they have actually signed a physical contract, they also have to be worried that they may get taken to court. Again, court is just bad all the way around. And so by having that, listen, I have a contract here. Am I going to need to take you to court? It's one of the questions they have to ask themselves too. Is it really worth going to court over this? And a lot of times they'll just write the check and away you go. Past that, what I found when I was a consultant with no employees is that the best way to get paid is frankly get paid at time of service. So everything you do, you should get paid at time of service. This was a big problem. This was one of the major problems I had with my business once I expanded to employees, is when I was a consultant, I always got paid time of service. Yes, a $2,000 check at time of service. Yes, that's, what I'm saying, I just spent the last 16 hours, here's the bill, I need a check, thank you. The issue is once I started having employees, I thought, the 30-day terms would be a better way to go, and you started getting into all of these weird little issues where people don't want to pay, employees say that they did the work, the people say they didn't do the work, the whole 9 yards. So what I would argue is just do payment at time of service. It's very interesting. Way back when I was going through private investigation training, they had us watching a video on bodyguard work, actually. And the main guy who was running the private bodyguard team was talking about how, when there's an emergency, that the families want everything to be done. So each bodyguard, whenever you hire these guys are very expensive, like really high quality protective services, like $1,000 per person per day. So if you really want a real protective detail, it costs you like 10 grand per day. And so it was like, no expense should be paid, do whatever you have to do, so on and so forth. And so they would protect the principal, and they would do all that kind of stuff. And then what would happen is at the end of it, they would be crying and be like, thank you so much. And then a month later, when the bill comes due, the family's like, well, we do, why did we need this extra bulletproof car? Or why did we need 5 protective staff against 3 instead of 3 protective staff? And so what that guy said was the best quote in the world that I ever heard is collect the money while the tears are still wet. And again, that sounds cold and crass and cruel to a lot of you, but hey, we're dealing with the real world right now. While they are still in that emotional state where they are still happy for what you have done, before they've started to think and question and all that kind of stuff, take the payment right then and there. Take payment while the tears are still wet. You got the server up and running, the secretary is happy, the warehouse worker's happy, the CEO is like, oh, thank, I'm going to be able to get all my emails. Get the payment right. Then everything will go a lot better. Payment at time of service is the best way to go. And then finally, what I would argue, and this is what I did with my clients, is again, I didn't take anybody to court. I didn't strong arm anybody or that kind of stuff. But with my clients, there was always a tacit understanding. And one nice thing with being an ASPE and how I communicate with people is most of the time they don't think I'm exaggerating, which is good because I'm not. And so one of the understandings with my clients was you can complain about any bill. You don't have to pay me. I can come here, I can go do $1,000 worth of work. You can write off that bill. You cannot pay it. No, I'm not going to take you to court, but understand I will never in my life do a single minute of work for you again. All the documentation that I have about your systems will get deleted when I go back to the office. All of the backups that I have of your systems, all of the CDs, all of the disks will be thrown in the trash. I am not going to argue with you about this bill. I have zero interest in arguing with you about any bill. If you don't want to pay, that's how you roll. But you have to understand, at the point you decide not to pay, our relationship is over forever. And again, what you have to think about is any real business that needs to stay up and running isn't going to risk that. They're just not functionally going to risk that. They may end up firing you a month or two from now and doing a real transition over to another company. But it will be after you get paid, because remember, all of those passwords, their Exchange server, all of that stuff has to stay up and running for them to do work. So if they don't pay the bill, or if they screw around with the bill and you say, I'm done with you, what happens if they get a virus the next day or something happens? So any kind of real company, again, you're just not gonna, if it comes up, again, you just look them in the eye. This is the bill. I'm not quibbling about it. I'm not negotiating about it. When I walked in the door, you understood how much I was gonna charge. That is exactly what I'm charging. The system is back up and running. That's what you do, is you run through everything. So you make sure they're on board. You know how much I charge, right? Yes. You saw me here working for this amount of time, didn't you? Yes. Your system is up and running, which it was not when I got here, correct? Yes. Then what's the question? Where's the argument, right? And if they're still like after that, just like that's fine, that's understandable. But then, like I say, the next time they call or any of that, they just don't get a call back. Their emails go in the spam folder, and away you go. That is really the thing to do, and you want to do that too. Especially not just for the individual clients, but you want to build up your client base. Again, remember, as a real consultant, you don't need a zillion clients. Like, everybody has this idea, like, I need 1,000 clients. You can't handle 1,000 clients. You probably can't handle 100 clients, right? If you're going to have a tech business, and it's just you, if it's just you, 20, maybe 30. Maybe 30. Like, if you're dealing with small clients, maybe 30, maybe 40. Maybe 40 at the worst, right? If you had 40 business clients, it's actually a lot of clients, right? So even if you had 40 business clients, which is the most, and you don't make very much money off of any of them in a month, but you have 40 business clients, that's still only 40 clients, right? When I was running my consulting shop, I bought the whole demographic package at one point, with you can go out and you can buy, email addresses and phone numbers and addresses and all that kind of stuff. And I bought that so I could do mass mailings. And when I was going through the demographic information, one of the interesting things that I found out was that in Baltimore City, and when we talk about Baltimore City, we're not talking about Baltimore inside the Beltway. We're talking about actually Baltimore City proper, which is only like 80% of everything within the Beltway. So just Baltimore City proper. Baltimore City proper had 24,000 24,000 businesses within Baltimore City proper, not including within the Beltway, and sure as hell not including all the suburban areas that increase that by who knows how much. Within Baltimore City proper, there are 24,000 businesses. So what you have to think about is if the most clients you can even handle is 40, and there are 24,000 possible clients in your area, then why screw around with anybody that's going to screw around with you, right? It's one of those things where you have to deal with short-term pain in order to make long-term wealth, right? You can screw around, and I understand. You know, you can sit there and you're like, Eli, but I don't want to lose this client now because I'm how I'm going to pay the bills, so on and so forth. But what you have to look at is going into the future. Do you want 40 clients that pay the bill on time, at time of service, no problems, no questions asked? Or do you want 40 clients screwing around with you on absolutely everything? So that's my thought there. Again, like I say, if you're really worried about it, like when they're new clients, have them sign a piece of paper. Again, it's a psychological trick. It's really nothing else than that. You're not going to take them to court. It's a psychological trick to try to get them to do what they're supposed to. And I'm telling you, like I said, you walk into the CEO's office, and this is where, you know, you guys talk about me being egotistical and arrogant and condescending sometimes, and I'm like, yep. Right? This is where it comes from. You have to be, you as a one-person consulting shop, you have to be able to walk into this company with a CEO with hundreds of employees and stare them in the eye and say, hey, man, I'd really hate for something to happen to your company. Excuse me? Well, I'm just saying, if you walk away from this bill, I completely understand you can walk away from this bill, but what's going to happen if your systems crash tomorrow? Just a question, like, right? And they're going to pay. And even like I say, even the small companies, and if they don't pay, you don't want them anyway. You don't want every client. One of the biggest things with consultants is the whole idea of firing clients. You don't want every single client. 24,000 possible businesses. All you need is 40. You know, that's where I come from with this saying, you know, all I need is 0.0000001% to be rich. You know, a lot of these people like, I only need 10% of the market. And other people say, I only need 1% of the market. Man, I need 0.00001% of the market, and I can still be a multimillionaire relatively easily. So that is what I would argue for you.